Welcome to the first virtual conference of Hotel Supply Show VX. Essentials for Flourishing in the New Normal by Mr. Merril will start in a few minutes. Welcome to the first virtual conference of Hotel Supplier Show VX. Essentials for Flourishing in the New Normal by Mr. Merril will start in a few minutes. In the meantime, please take note of our virtual conference etiquette. First, make sure both your video and microphone are turned off so we won't have unnecessary distractions and background noise. And if you have questions, even while our speaker is presenting, you may type them in the Q&A button. You may also opt to click the raise hand button if you wish to ask them verbally to our speaker. Welcome once again to the Essentials for Flourishing in the New Normal. Before we start, we'd like to present you the virtual opening ceremony of Hotel Supplier Show VX. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this much-awaited virtual gathering for the hospitality industry. Now, we present to you the organizers of Hotel Supplier Show VX 2020.
Welcome to the first virtual Hotel Supplier Show. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you for joining us in this bold move to give a boost to the hospitality industry.
May you enjoy this event as much as we did putting it together.
We are so proud to initiate this virtual gathering and humbled from all the support you have given us.
Enjoy connecting with suppliers, fellow hoteliers, restaurateurs in this unique virtual space.
Don't forget to invite your friends and colleagues and let us benefit from all this experience.
Again, thank you everyone. Welcome and enjoy the Hotel Supplier Show 2020.
You may now explore the opportunities this virtual space has in store for you. Enjoy the show! Thank you to all the people, associations, and organizations that made this event possible. For today's presentation, we will be joined by an international hotelier who honed his craft by leading and advising hotel and restaurant brands such as Four Seasons Hotels, the Peninsula Group, MGM, Legend Hotels International, Oriental Hotels and Resorts, Fersal Hotel Group, Rockwell Hotels and Leisure, Alegre Beach Resort, Villa Marinelli, Virgin Resorts, B Hotels, Z Hostel, Aqua Restaurant Group, Hong Kong, Sarabia Hotel, Greenleaf Hotel, Yabu and Ipudo Restaurants, Vasque Restaurant, Cravings Restaurant Group, Asea Hotel, Calle Artisano, Leo and El Nido, Mercure Manila, Ayala Land, Maxis, Rockwell Land, and so much more. Our speaker is also a recipient of the Philippines Mabuhay Gold Award as Hotelier of the Year and was also featured in New Book as one of the top 10 hospitality superstars of the Philippines. Please welcome a sought-after mentor and motivator in the hospitality industry, Mr. Merril Yu.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for being part of this. We're going to be spending time together on topic today, which is really going to be about essentials and flourishing during our times. So without much further ado, let's get started. A little bit of housekeeping first. This is focused really on hospitality, which are going to be mostly hotels, food and beverage. And it really is focusing on the independent owner as compared to brands, and we'll touch on a little bit about that. We're going to probably cover close to about, say, 35 minutes, which allows plenty of time for question and answers. The resources that you're going to see here, this presentation, as well as some reference articles will be made available to you. Just reach out the global link and then we'll be happy to email that to you. All right, so let's get started. First, I think everybody's gone through a lot of overload in terms of a lot of traffic about how, pandemic over 100 years, technology is changing, what would normally take in 10 years has happened in 5 months. So let's stay a little bit away from that traffic, because what we're going to focus in now is what are you guys going to be doing about it, right? So a little bit of an update on stuff. And by the way, the one thing I've learned about the pandemic is I finally need reading glasses. I'm going to put on my reading glasses. The current state of affairs are that people are still worried about health, and health is really number one, followed by economics, jobs, right? So as to the latest survey in the US, 61% of people are still worried about health. Obviously, what's happened in the last couple of months are people are either their kids are going to school or studying from home, they're working or they're laid off, or they really just are not working at all. Presently, in terms of how people feel about COVID, it's basically close to where it was in May, right? So there's still an overwhelming concern about health. So let's move to essentials. And the first thing about essentials is perception is reality, right? So what does that mean? The theme for the next couple of slides in discussion is going to be, it's not what you tell people, it's not what you say, it's really going to be what they see and what they experience about your product or what you're trying to do determines in their mind what they think about your product, right? So if you say that you are a lifestyle, personalized, experience-driven, great food kind of business or service, but within 2 minutes of walking into your restaurant and the client or the customer or the guest sees that, hey, this isn't what they said, right? All your branding, all your talk is really sort of meaningless. Right? So let's stick to a little bit now. So the message here is perception is reality. So let's focus on Thailand, right? So about 5 months ago, actually in May, they started a very intensive program, and they were really the first country in Asia to really start looking ahead to remarket themselves. So what they did is there were articles about how they're going to rebrand themselves as trusted. Now, what's a trust tourist destination? They were already looking back in June at low-risk areas such as China, South Korea, and Taiwan. Why? Because they wanted business as quickly as possible from these countries. So what did they do? Very quickly, they galvanized and organized the entire Thai tourism industry and created a set of standards, right, to basically brand the country as one common set of very high standards that would appeal to citizens from China, South Korea, and Taiwan, right? They very quickly moved into this. And by the way, all this stuff that you're going to be seeing today is publicly accessible. You can just Google it. Now, in addition to attracting foreign customers, the Thais also realized that a lot of Thais go overseas for vacation. So in 2016, which is the second bar from your right, over 7 million Thais, right, traveled outside to spend their money. So what did the Thais want to do? They said they want to keep these guys home. They want to keep them home so they can spend their dollars, convert it into baht, and keep it in the economy. Now, the same thing is an opportunity for us in the Philippines, right? In 2016, again, second bar from the right, 3.4 million Filipinos traveled overseas, right? And this is leisure. It's quite a lot, right? So if we just are able to capture a portion of that, right, we should be able to add 2 million travelers domestically once domestic tourism opens in our country. Now, the other thing the Thais were working on, and remember this article was May 28th, they're talking already about travel bubbles. Now, what are travel bubbles? Travel bubbles are going to be agreements between countries that are relatively healthy so that their citizens can go from one country to the other. So back in May, these were the countries already beginning to work on bubble arrangements. China, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Hong Kong. So they're already planning ahead. Now, bear in mind, right, that what they're addressing here is Thais making Thailand safe health-wise, right, that are going to attract or first to attract citizens from these countries to say, we're open, it's safe, go have a good time. Now, at the same time, led by the big brands, right, already as early as April and May, right, there were already industry changes to hotels and restaurants. And this had to do with everything, social distancing, hygiene and cleaning. So for hotels, we start with this. And this is from MGM and it's available online. Right? So the traditional lobby setup that used to have a lot of guest service people, a lot of interaction with staff and guests, guess what? It basically is limited to very, very, very few staff. Right? And basically it turned into a self-service. So point one, to somebody that welcomes you. Then contactless option, point two. Key dispensers. Why? You can make your own key. So a human does not have to make the key for you. Okay. Elevator capacity, right, was already being limited. So it's basically spacing. Luggage, right, will be delivered to your room, but in general, they encourage you to carry your luggage yourself. They give you your carts. And then the big part, cleaning and disinfecting, where everything in this area would be cleaned not only once, but on a regular basis, right? Number 7, physical distancing, right? Self-explanatory. And number 8, a lot of sanitation stations.
Excuse me, Sir Merril, kindly share the screen. Thank you.
Okay, really? Okay, sorry about that. Trying to share the screen. All right, can everybody see me? Yes? Okay, okay, good. Okay, let's go back. I think I get cut off. Okay, so with the hotel lobby, it's gone through 8 major changes, right? Which is going to be very few staff, right? Almost everything is contactless, including keys. They're pushing social distancing, elevators, luggage as well, cleaning and disinfectant, which is really a very big point. We'll go into that a little bit next, right? Physical distancing and sanitation stations. Now, these are the technologies that have already been put in place in vast majority of hotels, right? Such as basically you can check in yourself and get your key and go straight up to the room. Right? Now, the most amount of work has taken place in the bedroom. In the old days, pre-COVID, you would have a lot of things in the guest rooms. You'd have menus, guest service directories, papers, pens, sometimes books, flowers, whatever. Basically, the room has been really stripped down, right? Sorry. And the idea with stripping it down is because they want to make sure that the room has minimal areas that can be touched by old guests, right? And that most of the things now in the guest room are completely fixed. And as you can see here in the bottom left-hand corner, this is Hilton's, right? And Hilton, very early, I think it's back in March or April, they teamed up with Lysol on a program to be able to properly disinfect their rooms. Now, this is what MGM did, and you'll find it very, very similar, right? So digital keys, basically towels are requested. And basically they focus areas of cleaning on what they call hard surfaces, handles and doorknobs, electronics, hard surfaces, beddings, bathroom, bath amenities, switches and controls. Now moving to restaurants. The good news is that for the most part, the consumers have been really very accepting of the challenges in restaurants, right? That you have to wear a mask, right? That you have to disinfect yourself. Actually, you have to disinfect even the packaging once it gets to your house. That sometimes when you pick up your food, there are sometimes crowds, but you don't mind that, right? And that they don't even mind the fact that you have to replate the food sometimes when you bring it home. But bear in mind too that in the US in particular, and in Europe, in some other places in Asia, they've spent a lot of time on packaging. The idea with spending a lot of time in packaging is they recreate the in-restaurant dining experience in your home. So basically when you unpack it, it's like you're eating in the restaurant. And good news is that there's some restaurants in the Philippines here at home that basically have done a pretty good job with that. And we'll cover some of that tomorrow during our bubble highlights talk. Okay. And they don't even mind the fact that sometimes the food isn't packaged properly, or sometimes it leaks. Restaurants have also gone through the same kind of stripping down that has happened in hotel lobbies and in hotel guest rooms. A lot of it is sanitation, moving to digital menus. They've made a lot of restaurants have re-engineered the menus. One, because unless you're buying fast food, right? Regular dining in restaurants, casual dining, etc. No longer do people want to eat in your restaurant and take, say, an hour and a half to eat. They will probably expect to come in, take the order, eat, and get out of your restaurant in 30 to 45 minutes. So everything is that the menus have to be able to be applied, attractive, and easy to serve. Obviously, physical distancing, and finally, payment options. And certain countries in Asia are already into the touchless or easy pay system, Singapore, Hong Kong, so it's now coming here. And this is sort of now the new ideal restaurant that you'll see a lot more overseas, where it's basically self-serve, right? You basically are going to have everything before you actually enter the restaurant to be able to order and simply pay and pick it up. Now, how to enable touch-free? Right. Very simply goes from a mobile menu, virtual kiosk, virtual waiter, and either you drive or you pick up the food. And the various technologies that are available for you to create that experience. The whole idea is it's very much self-serve. Even fitness, lockers, restrooms, and pool standards have had their own levels of standards, right? And these are areas that don't get a lot of time and attention, but overseas, they are spending a lot of time and attention on them. For example, the picture on the right is from the California Government of Public Health, right? So again, it's available online. So if any of you have these facilities in your areas, the resources are online for you to be able to draw and figure out exactly what you need to do. Now, this one I just discovered the other week, and it's really cool. This is David Chang, who's a very, very famous chef, and his restaurant group is called Momofuku Group. What he's done is, first, he's a big advocate for restaurants. So basically, he used his own restaurant to basically not only educate his own group and ensure that the customers knew that their places are safe and a lot of thought has gone into it, but he made it publicly accessible. So if you take a look at this particular screen, right, on the right side, he's created policies and procedures, right, for everything from diner code of conduct, how the disease spreads, how you wash your hands, wearing gloves, social distancing, public personal safety equipment, etc. And on the right side is his library, right? How do you hand wash? How do you use your glove? What are social distancing? How do you start your shift? How do you take temperatures? Bathroom usage, all the way down. Now, to show you the degree of detail and brilliant thought that went into it, then you go in from this index, right? That's everything that this index covers. And it's available online, right? So you say, wow, that's really good, right? It's a great glossary, an index as to what's available. Then you go into further detail. So this is the detail for his guest bathroom disinfecting log, right? So it's properly set up. It says, okay, the purpose is to maintain a record basically when we clean the bathroom. And that these are the different areas that need to be cleaned, right? And then finally at the bottom is a schedule. And he goes even further than that, where he says, okay, now what are the chemicals that we need to use? And for me, right, in our country, this page in particular is something that our industry, which are mostly the independents, really have to gear up on, because generally we are not to world standards, sad to say. And if there's anything good about what's happened with COVID and the new normal, is that it encourages those that are easy to be encouraged, and it forces those that are not going to practice it early into doing things correctly, right? So if you go through this, and this is just a restaurant, right? You're going to go through, how much chlorine do you use, right? Ammonia do you use, right? How do you determine hot water for soap? The temperature for that, the detail is really amazing. Now, imagine, let's go to perception is reality, right? If he puts this on his website, well, even if he's a great chef and they have a lot of return guests and that kind of stuff, right? They would expect this kind of detail from some restaurant and the caliber of the personality of the owner, David Chang. So the perception and the reality are a complete blend, and they go harmoniously together. Okay, now, the earlier part were the essentials. So that is what you need to do for the bare basics now, right? So now let's see, how are some people doing it better? How do you flourish, right? And a lot of it is learning as we go. So first, if there's anything good during the new normal now, it's that we as a customer are finally going to have we actually have rights now. I'm talking mostly in the Philippines. What does that mean? That actually, because so few people are now eating out or dining or staying in hotels or anything else, I, the customer, am now better appreciated. I, the customer now, you guys, you business people are thinking about really what the most of your customers look at, right? You're actually looking at this slide, right? What is painful for me as a customer that I have to go through to use your product, your service, your business, because sometimes there is no one else to use, or basically that all your competitors are basically the same, right? So the key is that if you observe customer pain points, right, it allows you to come to a solution, right? So what do you do with that, right? What you do is you spend time focusing on what's painful to customers, and simply put, you make it easy, right? So back to restaurants, just because everybody needs to eat, right? These are some of the hassles and the feedbacks out of the US, but I'm sure most of it's going to be relevant here. The things they have to put up with: extra fees and surcharges, delivery takes too long, limited options, poor selection, wrong order, pricing is higher than normal menu prices, the description is not good, communication with the restaurant is poor, unreliable delivery times, item substitutions, right? Couriers improperly, unsafely handling my food, online apps are confusing, difficult to get problems resolved and refunds, and sometimes couriers steal items, okay? But for the most part, all of these things happen here. Now, a quiet known fact, I think, is that, you know, I do a lot of TripAdvisor feedback for restaurants. In fact, I think my last rating is number 8 in Manila, which means I've reviewed and commented on restaurants so often. I'm number 8 in Manila, right? And let me tell you that in terms of restaurants, now, in fact, recently, right, we realize they're open, but they haven't updated the website. When you try and call the telephone number that's on Google or on the website, it doesn't work. You know, you wonder, is that you guys, why are you still in business, right? You know, here I am making the effort to spend my money in your business, and one, you make it hard, and two, it doesn't work. Okay, so back to the main point, right? Is that going to be that if, and again, we're focusing on independence. If I, as an independent owner, want to make something that is going to be memorable, and by the way, let me interject too, is that during this whole COVID period, the new normal, right? The amount, you know, people will spend money in restaurants that right, they're used to going to, which means that they are regular paid, you know, they always go to those same restaurants, right? And we'll talk a little bit about being a return guest in a bit. So if I'm designing, right, in this new normal, the new standards that really make a difference to the customer, right? You don't have to be innovative about it. You just have to figure out what is painful for the customer that I am doing to the customer, or what is painful for the customer that my neighbor is doing to him or her, and just make it better. And you have to be consistent about it too. So basically, right, we focus so much backwards. We start at the top normally: interaction, touch points, processes, and finally systems. No, if you put your magic moments into your systems, and everything else follows. Right? It's the customer experience that only counts, right? It's not your policies and procedures. It's not how you collect money from them. It's, you know, if they're not going to want to come into your restaurant, then all your touch points and interactions are sort of useless. Okay. A friend of mine in Vegas, right? This is how she decided to limit the bar, because in the States, the bars are basically closed. So instead of leaving the bar counter empty, they got staff to put their stuffed animals on these chairs. It's rather cute. Plus, it made a story, and it got splashed on social media, I don't know how many million times. So how do you flourish, right? It's going to be, 1, make it less painful, and then 2, do something that nobody else is doing, but something the guest appreciates. A current article on McKinsey, which is a nice one, right? It basically says, make it better, not just safer, right? That's exactly what flourishing means, right? So this article, which is available, I'll send it to you guys or through Global Link, talks about the opportunity to reinvent travel as it, right? So basically now everything we've covered is touchless. Okay? You don't see a lot of human beings when you go to a hotel. You don't see a lot of human beings when you go to a restaurant, right? What do they both share in common? The new normal hotel, the new normal restaurant, basically everything is self-serve. It's controlled by the customer. But the interesting thing here on the right, this is now where we begin to talk about customer preference, right? So we go from the staircase, right? Staircase, first step A, basic, right? I will travel. Staircase B is I prefer to travel with a certain brand, right? Now, staircase C, right, is really going to be I will travel only with a certain brand, right? Now, I would make the argument that you can use this not only for traveling, but this is for hotels, for restaurants, for any service in any particular service business, right? Is your success, your chances of success are greater when you move to level B and are really very good when it comes to level C, okay? Quite a while ago, how many years ago? Maybe 8-9 years ago, a friend of mine, Martin Lorenzo at the time, he owned Pancake House and then he bought Yellow Cab Pizza and he had a few other brands, Teriyaki Boy, right? And he told me one day, he said, he said, every Filipino has 8 restaurants in their stomach, right? 8 restaurants, right? And what are these 8 restaurants? These are the same 8 restaurants they eat at every month, right? So if they at the end of the month, if they figure out all the places they ate, it'll only be generally 8 restaurants. So Martin was telling me, I want my restaurants to be one of those 8. And if every Filipino has one of my restaurants in part of their 8 restaurants in their stomach, right, we will do well, period. So that, the staircase, folks, for you independents is, most of us, most of independents are sort of happy at level A. But you know what? In the new normal, you got to move to B and then B to C. So what are the takeaways from the McKinsey article? First is give customers more choice and control. Okay. What is the biggest complaint customers have now in the States is the applications that the restaurants send are not compatible with their phones. Why? Because the restaurants only use web apps that make it convenient for the restaurant. So, hello folks, that didn't work pre-COVID, it's not gonna work now. If you make it so painful for the guests to take control over ordering or staying or whatever, they're just not going to. The same thing, refund policy, right? If you go, how many places still do not want to give you your money back? And for the most part, people can't travel because there's a sudden change in the quarantine laws. There's a sudden change in the medical test required, right? So the design that you have control over, that the customer has to use, has to be with the customer in mind first. Next, be genuine, be human and genuine, and personalize the experience. Sorry, typo. Experience, not expert. Okay, at the end of the day, right, while everything we've spoken about so far is sort of like bringing ATM bank machines to life, actually there has to be a human face, a human feel to everything. So the business of the new normal is not elimination of people and jobs. What it is smarter, adaptive process to all the customers looking for, and yet being able to provide that personal touch in however and whatever shape or form your business is in. Okay. The last part is listen to customers and take an agile approach. Okay, listen to customers. It's something we are not really good at in the Philippines, but fortunately now with the new normal, you have to. Right? You just have to. And what is agile? Agile is just meaning that you have to adapt, change, implement, train, execute. Right? Now a little bit about return guest. Okay. Now, remember my story about Martin Lorenzo earlier, that Filipinos have 8 restaurants in their stomach? Well, my wife and I, we've known this for years. We go to the same restaurants, right? All the time, right? And you know what's sort of nice about them is they know who we are. I call them and say, oh, this is Mr. Yu. I say, oh, Mr. Yu, how are you? And then some of them, another restaurant will even guess, oh, Mr. Yu, what about this? You're going to order this again and this again and this again. I'm saying, it's so rare that the loyalty we have for that restaurant, for those people, that even if their food sucks on one particular day, we'll go back. We'll give them another chance, right? And you know what? Welcome back is not a digital process. Welcoming back guests is a people process. So for all your CS, your customer software systems to track people's behavior and all that kind of crap, right? At the end of the day, if the people on the front line don't do something human with it, it doesn't work. And let me tell you, being a customer, I grew up in customer service. I grew up with excruciatingly painful reminders about how human and how good and consistent we have to be, right? Our country has a long way to go. It's not the number of people you have servicing people, it's what does each person have to be able to convey that sense of warmth and also recognize people. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about people personalities. Okay. Now, these are 7 types, if you focus on them, 7 personality types. And there was a survey taken of the 7 personality types, right? Who would you like to hire for customer service? So the first one is on the left, controller, outspoken, opinionated, likes demonstrating expertise and directing the customer interaction. Number 2, the rock, unflappable and optimistic, doesn't take difficult conversations personally. Number 3, the accommodator, meets people halfway, involves others in decision-making, eagerly offers discounts and refunds. Okay, number 4, empathizer, enjoys solving others' problems, seeks to understand behavior and motives, and listens sympathetically. Okay, the next person, the hard worker, follows rules and procedures, likes working with numbers, is persistent and deadline oriented. Next one, innovator, identifies ways to improve processes and procedures, generates new ideas and options. And last but not least, the competitor, focuses on winning, outperforming colleagues, and changing others' views. Okay, now in the survey, right, they asked them and said, who would you hire, right? So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to figure out all these personality types, and we're talking customer service here. Which personality profile would you hire? Okay, let's go. Are you ready? And the winner is, sorry. Let me preface this first. Before we go to the answer to the survey, right? On the left-hand side, I said the rise of I in new normal service, right? What does that mean? With fewer staff and supervision and managers, more of the business rests with the I. I need to know my stuff, be confident, and yet know how to make decisions that are not in the manual. My business can't do without me. I went to a restaurant yesterday to pick up a pizza, and I had not been there in a couple of months because they were opening and closing. And I called him and I said, because I know the waiter quite well. He said, hey, did you get my order? I texted it on the, He said, no. I said, why? Because the supervisor, they used to have a supervisor per shift. Now there's no more supervisor. Okay, never mind. So he said, what's happened in your business? They said, their staff now, they have one in the kitchen and one in the front. So he basically does everything in the front. They used to have a cashier, a supervisor, sometimes a manager, and 2 wait staff. Now it's just him. He does everything. He does it very well too. And the guy in the kitchen, he's cross-trained to do whatever there is on their particular menu. Now, with this particular restaurant, and it's a branded one, by the way, right? They reduced staff, right? The website information is wrong, right? And their pizza price also went up in price by 50%. But it's still a great pizza. And so what I did is, I know the owner, so I vibered her the other day, and I said, hey, and she's taking care of it, right? But for me, it just confirmed the whole importance now of I, right? You don't have an army of people that can do, you don't have 10 people to do 2 people's job. Now you have 1 or 2 people to do 10 people's jobs and to do it well. So now let's go back to the answer to the survey. And the winner is the controller. Okay. Now, most people would have picked the emphasizer, but right now, back then, this is pre-COVID, right? It's the controller. And the reason the controller wins is because they know more than the customer what the customer needs. Now, bear in mind, during COVID, our new normal, everything is self-service. The customer knows everything about you on digital, social media, marketing, whatever. They know everything you're offering. They have the other guest feedback. They know everything about you. So if they're going to come and talk to a human being, it's something that they haven't, it's something that remains a question despite everything that's on your websites or what's been written about you. So that you don't need somebody to be nice to you. You really need somebody that is sort of nice to you, but can answer your question. So it's the controller. Okay, lastly, so much good stuff is online, it's for free, right? Still, the challenge for independence is who's going to download it? Who's going to understand, figure it out, plan, assign resources, train, execute daily quality checks to ensure? That's a challenge. Now, the answer is going to be, now, I say this, I'm not selling my service or any of my friends' services, right? There are a lot of good consultants that will help you with marketing, website, operations, operations management, business planning. You know, there are a lot of us out there, right? So I'm not pitching myself, right? Go online, talk to a friend. In the Philippines, everybody here is 2 degrees of separation. So you figure out somebody you'll know within your circle will have worked with some consultant. If the experience is good, reach out and get them to help you. You know why? Because for the most part, I can say this with certainty, we've been doing a lot of work with hotels. Hotel owners, independent ones, really understand they're entrepreneurs, but they're not into policies, procedures, creation, training, execution, and consistency. Last point on this one is for independent owners, right, managers, you have to ingest everything that you've heard over the last 35 minutes or so, digest it, and then the last thing is you have 2 choices. You invest to succeed, or you divest, you get out of the business. Right? So let me finish by going through the final takeaways. Okay, we covered first essentials, that perception is reality. It's not what you tell people, it's not your brochure, it's not your website. They're not going to eat and taste your website. They're not going to sleep in your website, right? It's really going to be that when they walk into the door, a friend of mine that used to be GM of the Pen, right? He would say, everybody gets 5 minutes. Now, this is pre-COVID, right? I think now the new normal is you get your 1 minute. In 1 minute, I can tell you what your business is like by what I see on the outside, the inside, the people, is it clean, the smell, whatever, right? Perception is reality. Secondly, the essentials, right? What is important and how to do it is important too. What is easy? It fell off the truck. It came off of Google, right? How are you going to do it? That's the challenge. Okay. Flourishing, substance and style, right? Once you get the essentials done, how do you do it in a nicer way, right? How do you do it in a nicer, more memorable way? And that's where the human part comes in, right? We're all humans, so however you would want to be treated, it's the Confucian golden rule, right? Treat others as you would have others treat you. Right? Then we just covered this point: ingest, digest, invest, or divest. And the last point I leave with, which is the most important, is through all of this, right, being in the business of customer service, whether it's hotels, restaurants, spas, whatever, right? It's the rise of the I. We are now reliant on few special people to represent our brand, to take care of the guests, to deliver that reality is the perception, right? So on that note, thank you very much. God bless. And now I'll take questions. Let's see.
Okay, Mr. Merril, there are several questions lined up here in the Q&A from Mr. Pete Delantar.
Yep.
How will these changes and new safety protocols affect the behavior of the hotel guests? Will there be a lot of high expectations, and will this also create a motion of brand loyalty?
Okay. If anything, it'll raise standards because it simply put, a guest will not go to a hotel if they even doubt the health and hygiene issue. So it's completely black and white. I will either stay at your hotel because A, you have standards that conform, I'm talking independence, that your independent standards are at the same level as the international brands or the brands in general, local brands or international brands. So certainly it's going to be a requirement. Yeah, it's almost like if I want to attend UP, I still have to take that old-fashioned exam and be in the top 90th percentile, right? There's a standard. Now, that standard will now go through for every hotel.
Okay, another question. Aside from all the usual safe practices we implement in our restaurant, can you advise how else can we convince people to come back and dine in again? Or you think it will just be better to focus on takeout and deliveries?
Okay, first focus on takeout and deliveries, because until such time that there's a comfort level with dining in restaurants, the business there is going to be slower. Second point, turn on your lights. A lot of independent restaurants look closed. Why? I don't know why they think they're saving money by turning off the lights. You look closed, therefore nobody's going to go walk in or think you're open. and living in Sauceda Village, all you have to do is walk around at lunchtime and you can figure out who looks closed and who's actually open. So those are the 2 points. But certainly, and the other point's going to be, a good friend of mine, a French guy that's married to a Filipino, has a very successful catering business. When the new normal hit, his business did very well. Why? Because he has a database. He has a lot of return clients. He sends out every week the menu items for pickup on Saturday and Sunday, and the business from advance orders and takeouts, deliveries. When you add that to the existing Saucedo and Legazpi market business he has, he's doing just as well. He's probably doing better. So you have to focus on what are the potential areas of business to augment what's short. What's short now in restaurant dining is short. So you have to focus on then pushing takeouts, pushing deliveries.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question from Elliot Diananeas. What should travelers do if they get sick while at an accommodation facility?
Okay, first thing is to contact the hotel, right? The hotel staff on duty. And then they, depending on the city, the barangay, there are protocols that each hotel has that they have to notify government units to act. So the key is don't panic, stay in your room, isolate yourself, and then call the hotel, and the hotel then will coordinate everything that you need to get the proper medical attention.
Okay, thank you for that. From Lilibet by Losses, do you think these protocols will be the norm in the future, even after pandemic?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, remember after 9/11, you all have to line up to get checked, right? It becomes part of, it's not only the new normal, it is now the normal, which is good. You know, the protocols for hygiene, my gosh, thank goodness. It's great. So yes, it's part of everything ahead of us.
Okay, thank you for that. Last question. Do you think it's okay to start a food business now?
You should look at ghost kitchens, GH like ghost, GHOST kitchens. Just Google it. What it is setting up a kitchen with no in-restaurant dining. And basically it's just purely for pickup and for delivery. Second point is you need to know what food you're selling, right? Right now, what's number one? What does everybody eat all the time? Comfort food. If you're going to go into the comfort food business, you're up against everybody, right? So unless you have some new lechon or some new super duper dish that nobody else has, it's highly competitive. So you need to do your research.
Okay, Mr. Merrill, there are still two more questions here. One is, I would like to ask you from Mr. Benike. I would like to ask you on your personal standpoint, how would you like the plate, utensils, table napkin to be served once you enter a restaurant?
You can pre-package it, pre-wrap it and seal it in plastic. And then just when somebody sits down, you lay it in front of them. Right?
Okay. Another one, what will be the focus of customer service now? From Carmela Malagar.
Focus of customer service is, if you take a look at customer service is going to, if the new normal is going to be the customer knows everything or most things before they come in, right? Then your staff has to be well versed with what the customer knows and what the customer does not know, right? Like even to the point like where's the toilet in the lobby, right? And being able to it's almost like being a concierge in the old days, hundreds of years ago. Hundreds of years ago in Europe, the concierge ran the hotel. Everybody went to the concierge. He could take care of theater tickets, transportation. He can get your room clean. He can have flowers delivered. He can tell you how to go from on tours, right? He knew everything about the front of the house, as we call it, and the heart of the house, which is the part of the hotel that the guest doesn't see, right? The staff training needs to bring that kind of general knowledge, right, down to each line staff, because there are fewer of them. Even to the point, and by the way, concierge didn't know everything, right? If they didn't know something, they would say, oh, sir, madame, monsieur, I will just get back to you in a few minutes. And then they run and they get the answer. So that can still happen too. So we're not saying that the eyes need to know everything. They need to know more than the guest, and they need to know where to get the answers very quickly.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we're engaging the attendees. So many questions are popping in. What can you say? Okay, from an anonymous attendee, what can you suggest if I'm planning to establish a gaming cafe restaurant after pandemic?
Gaming cafe. Well, that's rather unique. Okay. What kind of game? Bingo? Or is it going to because if you're going to go, it depends on your definition of gaming. If you're going up against the casinos or Pac-War, I might think about that. But if you're going to go into like chess, backgammon, whatever, it's a cute, novel idea. Yeah, certainly it would stand out. Yeah, cute.
Okay, another one from Raisa Bangahan. With the realization of the pandemic, Is it advisable to put a quarantine facility room as a standard in a business facility?
I would make it'd be hard for you to sell that one room. I think probably you make sure that all your rooms are quarantine friendly. And I think, and in general, quarantine is basically that they just can't leave the room. So as long as they're comfortable in the room, they have hot and cold water, they have, you deliver water to them, you deliver food to them, or whatever, you leave it outside the door. Yeah, I think that you can make each room quarantine friendly without having to make a dedicated room for quarantine.
Okay, from Robert Narvada. Okay. Should we change our target market during this pandemic?
Well, one, you need to figure out who is eating with you, and then obviously the next one is who is not eating with you, and then why are they not eating with you? So if you answer questions 2 and 3, it'll give you an idea as to what you need to do to compete.
Okay, from Lilibet Bailosis, what kind of AIs are needed in order to be competitive in restaurants?
AI, like artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, can you ask a question again? Sorry.
What kind of AIs are needed in order to be competitive in restaurant business?
Okay. To be competitive. Okay, first, if we're talking independent restaurants, right, you need to create your own database, right? So you need to go back to the old fashioned, please fill in what you think about us. So your staff and you as the owner need to be brave enough to ask guests, are you really happy with us? What can we do to make things better? And then you build the database. Well, that's one. Secondly, if you have a web app, right, or website, it has to be completely friendly and easy to navigate. If you, and one of the best websites we like using, I'm not pitching her, even if she's a friend. If you go to pacificbay.com, right, they have evolved their website. It's so easy to shop, and you can pay cash on delivery. And it's a great shopping experience, and it's for all food, seafood. Then they branched out into meats, dry goods, whatever. They keep adding things to sell on their platform. So you need to. So then the answer to the question is not so much AI, because it's going to be the quality of the information rather than the amount of the information, right? You need to know how to extract it. So you need to build your database. You need a basket of customers that are your loyalists, that will tell you the truth, that will tell you why they keep coming back and what you need to improve on. That's one. And then your website has to be very easy to navigate and updated.
Okay, thank you for that. From Chiki Veneracion, you were mentioning restaurants in the Philippines who do deliveries and are able to recreate the resto ambience in the homes. Please give examples.
Serena Restaurant, Japanese. We actually pick up the food, but when you open it up, they invested in we always go for the bento box and the sashimi. And they have beautiful black plastic with a clear top so you can see the food for the sashimi. And instead of squeezing their one order into one large dish, they broke it up into 2 smaller dishes, very pretty. And they still do the garnishes, and it's just as good as eating in the restaurant. And the same thing with the bento box. They spend a lot of time just figuring out, if I open this, does it remind people of Serena, or does it look like Jollibee? And nothing against Jollibee, but you don't go to Jollibee for Japanese food. So you need to invest in that kind, and what is a proper accompaniment that represents your restaurant brand and your food well, that also keeps it hot if it's hot, or cold if it's cold.
Okay, I think this is the last question.
Yeah.
In your personal point of view, how long does this pandemic will last?
Well, supposedly they're coming up with vaccines by by middle to third quarter of next year. But even, even when that happens, right, that there is a vaccine between June and let's say October next year, right, the lingering effects of COVID will linger. Why? Because not everybody will be vaccinated at the same time immediately. It's going to take time. And even assuming that most of the world gets vaccinated, right, there'll still be a hangover and a concern about health that are probably going to, my guess, early 2022. Okay. So, but business is going to come back. In fact, that's not going to stop business from coming back. As it is now, hotels in the United States are already averaging 50% occupancy, 50, right? Europe, I think, is close to the same. And China is, I think, 70%. So, the market is coming back. The key is going to be for us here, opening up eventually safely domestic travel. That's where the key is. But the key also is going to be what's going to happen is domestic travel opens because everybody generally is okay with things being safe, right? How many of us are going to be ready, right? Because it's nice to get foreign travelers, but if we can't take care of our own domestic travelers, forget the foreign travelers. So all these protocols have to be in place starting now, so that when whether you think it's a V shape or a curve shaped growth, it's going to come back. And right now, so many businesses have trimmed back. They will find the adjustment to more business very hard.
Okay. We answered all questions already, Mr. Merril. Any last advices for our attendees for today?
There's lots of hope out there. The key is don't be scared, but you have to take you have to think well on it. For us, we always pray and discern. So I have no doubt that we are going to do well as an industry. The key is going to be when, but you don't want to. It's almost like the story of Joseph, right? 7 lean years and 7 harvest years, right? We never did, for the most part, store away during the 7 years of immense harvest for the Philippines. So now we're stuck with 7 years. I don't think it'll be 7 years, but in the Bible, a period of time where things are tough. But it's going to come back. So the key now is to do what it takes to analyze your business, figure out how you're going to survive now, plan for the future, and then invest, right? Invest or make the decision otherwise, right? And on that note, I wish you all well, God's blessings, His protection. And if there's anything you need, just reach out to Global Link and I'll send the presentation and the McKinsey article to them. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this webinar. We'll see you in next webinars we have.
Thank you once again, Mr. Merril Yu, for sharing your valuable time and knowledge with us. You can follow Mr. Merril Yu on LinkedIn for more insights about the hospitality industry. Mr. Yu will be back tomorrow as the moderator of Memorable Bubble Experiences at 10 a.m. and the impact of COVID-19 on the Philippine tourism industry at 1 p.m. Don't forget to check out hotel and restaurant suppliers in the exhibition hall and follow our Facebook and Instagram page at Hotel Suppliers Show. Have a fruitful day ahead!